Welcome, I'm Darren, and I'll be your guide today as I rank the best insert cards for baseball in 1992. When I was putting together the basketball and football card videos, I was really excited because I was finding about 8 cards that I really wanted to talk about. So I couldn't narrow it down to 5 plus 1. I had to talk about a little bit more because there was just so much great stuff. When I got to baseball, it was a little bit different because, look, I ended up with 8 at the end of the day anyway. Which was, it came in a different way, that's the thing. And I ended up with 8 because of how I got here, because there were 2 cases where there were 2 cards that were basically the same. Well, in one case, they were basically the same, and in another case, they were different enough, but they were kind of the different takes on the same idea, and I just couldn't figure out how to differentiate one from the other and then shove something else out of the way. So there are 2 cases where I'm going to be talking about 2 cards as one entry, which meant that kind of created an opening for an honorable mention that wouldn't have made the list anyway, because, I mean, I like it, but it's a bit problematic. So this list went a little bit differently than was the case with basketball and football. Regardless, since we are here getting ready to talk about the honorable mention, what one is that? And that is the FLIR Ultra All-Rookie Team cards. This card has everything it needs to be great. Almost. It's missing one important thing, which is, well, I'll get to that in a second. So the things that are great about this card is that it has the same wonderful marble, sloped marble down at the bottom that they had in the regular set. It's gorgeous, really gorgeous. And I love that logo that they have for the all-rookie team. The combination of those, fantastic. So what's the problem? Well, it seems to be missing something. See, in the main set, they had the marble at the bottom, but they had a gold foil strip that transitioned from the marble to the top of the card, and it kind of scaled everything. In the case of the all-rookie team cards, they did not bother with that strip of gold foil, which means that marble block down at the bottom feels a lot bigger, but it's unadorned, and that's the problem. I love how it looks, but it needs something. And so every time I look at these cards, it feels to me like a misprint, like they didn't get the gold foil on this particular card. But they're all that way. It's just like what they did in 1992 in Stadium Club for baseball, where again, they didn't have the foil strips for some reason, which they had in the other sports, and it needed the gold foil strips. In this case, it desperately needs it over that block. That's the one problem that it has. And if it had that, this would probably be at number 2, but because it's missing, I can't even put it in the top 5. So it is my also ran here at the end. So what were the ones I did have in the top 5? Well, that starts off with Pinnacle Icons. And this card is gorgeous. Horizontal format, I love that. Horizontal gives you a lot of opportunities, and they played around with it well. They have 2 images. They have a tight headshot of the rookie, and then they have a wonderful action shot of the veteran behind. And what I really love about this one is it's kind of like you're hanging out up in the bleachers with Todd Van Poppel with Nolan Ryan down on the field playing. It has kind of a cool look on occasion with these cards, this one in particular. But setting that aside, the design concept is wonderful. And it's very similar to what they did in football in Score with their Dream Team cards, where they had a head and then they had a tight head shot and then they had an action shot. But that was a fancier card where they used a whole color treatment over the action shot or around the action shot to make a set feel across the whole set. And it was almost a perfect choice that they made in that case. In this case, the problem here is the fact that there is something missing for cohesiveness across the set. On an individual basis, this card is hard to beat, but it doesn't have anything really flashy and iconic to pull you in. And when you have multiple cards from this, they don't come together. They don't read together as a group. So that's the only problem, is the fact that the card is missing a design element to tie things together. But still, it's a really great card. So at number 4, I have my first case of 2 cards, which is Donruss Diamond Kings and Donruss Triple Play Gallery of Stars. And I think you'll agree with me, they're basically the same set. There is a difference. So with Donruss Diamond Kings, The art is more formal and really elegant, looks beautiful, just looks beautiful. I love the way that all of these cards come across in the set. Very consistent, really, really nice. And Diamond Kings has long had a tradition of having great art. This is for me, this is one of the real highlight years for them. So it's a really good one. When you go over to Triple Play, that was designed more for kids, and you can see it in their gallery of stars because these cards are more playful, they're more energetic, more vibrant. They look great, but choosing between the vibrancy of this kind of fun and the elegant, I tend to go more toward the elegant. That's just my bet. That's what I usually do. Now, if it's fun for the sake of just pure fun, then I have a strong tendency to go toward fun. But this is kind of in between. And so I look at it and I go, well, it could be better. That's kind of how I read the Gallery of Stars. So to me, there's no question. Diamond Kings is the number 4 on this list, but I also got to mention the other one, which still looks really cool. For number 3, I'm staying with Donruss, but I'm going over to Studio with their Heritage cards. And this is a card that is not as well made as the Diamond Kings cards. The Diamond Kings cards is just a really formal, well-crafted card. Here it gets a little bit loose, but it's all about that idea. The idea of having a player and he is wearing the traditional uniforms from his team from a long time ago. And then you have the ye old-timey photo approach with the sepia. Looks gorgeous. And I look at all of these cards. Every time I do, I get a smile on my face because it's so fun to see it. And they look so great. It's really wonderful. But the card still has more going for it because it still has the copper scrapbook corners on each one of the cards, which does look a bit untethered. That's the one issue I have with the card. But other than that, still really cool idea. And the color around the outside is a really good color, really good hue that they chose on these glossy cards. So the card to me, while not quite as well made as the Diamond Kings, for me it just brings out a lot more fun for me as a viewer all these years later. So for number 2, I am now transitioning over to, well, I'm going to the other pair of cards. And in this case, it's FLIR Ultra with their All-Star cards and with their Tony Gwynn commemorative cards. And these cards are kind of 2 takes on the same general design principle. I'll say that. The All-Star cards, this is a card that means a lot to me because I don't remember a lot from 1992 proper, like to the point where I can envision myself somewhere looking at something. There are 2 exceptions to that. One was the Topps Gold cards, but the other one was this particular card. I don't know if it was Mark McGwire, although it probably was, considering where I grew up. But regardless, it was standing, I remember the specific card shop. I was standing at a display case looking down and I saw one of these cards and my jaw promptly hit the top of that display case because I didn't know you could do this with cards. It was incredible. The deep black marble, gorgeous. A slight 3D effect, gorgeous. The gold foil, I mean, it was hitting every single tone you could possibly imagine. And the thing was, I didn't even imagine it. Nice glossy card, the whole thing. I looked at it and I said, I didn't know you could do this with cards. It was a religious moment for me. It was so special. And I never collected baseball cards, so I never had one of these until, frankly, just a few years ago when I started this project. That's when I finally got them, and I was so excited to finally get them because it has been seared into my mind for 30 years. That's how impressive these cards were at the time. And setting aside the card back, these cards still hold up really well today. Not to the same extent, but they still look fantastic. And the reason I'm tacking Tony Gwynn on here is because these cards are also really good. Now, this card is almost identical to what they did with Scottie Pippen, and I think that the red marble is a lot better, but it's harder to read the text. Here, it's a good combination of everything, and the card just looks fantastic. It's not as good as the All-Star cards, but I didn't want to try to shove it in somewhere else, so I wanted to acknowledge that it's very similar. But I will note, it's interesting to me that FLIR Ultra, in 1991, it was a big train wreck. In 92, this is how they started their inserts. These 2 were just sensational, and then there weren't a lot of really great inserts across the rest of the year. I mean, they all looked really good, but very few were able to hit this level. This is the way that Ultra started for the year, and I mean, they started beautifully. But number one, I can't imagine any pushback on this, because number one is the Team Pinnacle cards, which are just, oh, these are good. So 92 and 93, great designs. 94, some of them were great, some of them weren't. But the 92 stands out especially. The stipple art, great art, really wonderful art. It's a 3/4 bleed, so that the stipple art just flows right off all three sides. Great, amazing choice. I like all the detailing down at the bottom, the way that it was built in. Could have been a little bit better, but I don't really have notes for this. It's just, I mean, I don't have any complaints. But mainly it's the two front sides, so that you have the art on one side and you have the art on the other. So you have the pair of them that just work so well. I love this card. And the art goes from card to card to card. I think baseball is more consistent than football. Which one overall is better? Well, I'm a football guy, and I have to acknowledge baseball might be better. I don't know. I'm not going to figure that out to the next video, but for this video, what I can say is that the baseball set, as I go through all of these cards, I just love looking at each and every one of these cards. The art is so good, and the cards do such a great job of presenting it. To me, it is hands down the best set for baseball. As much as I love those All-Star cards, I think that these cards hold up a lot better. So that's my ranking of the top 5 and change baseball insert card designs for 1992. So I've already done the other 3 sports, which means in the next video, I'm going to pull all 4 sports together, and I'm going to look at just the best of all 4, which will probably be more like a top 10, because there are a lot of great sets to look at. But at the same time, I also am going to be looking at a couple of cases, like Team Pinnacle, where multiple sports did really well, so I get to figure out which one is the best. So definitely look out for that video. If you haven't seen the other videos, I urge you to go back and check those out and see how 1992 shaped up across all the different sports. If you haven't subscribed, please do so, ring the bell to be notified, and thank you very much for watching.